You're listening to White Noise with your host, Drip, 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 Drip.
That's the intro by one Lord Vader, Anakin Invader. Shout out to Sham. He was on at Where's Buffy? Or I should just say Where's Buffy, which is
he was on the Buffy
of the BRP Universe. They have their own YouTube as well, their own Twitter. So go over there, subscribe. Shout out to Diz. Shout out to you. Shout out to fam. You four, I should say, talked about Wakanda Forever. We'll get in that.
Yeah, Brock was around. Shouts to Kill.
Kill.
Where's Buffy podcast on the YouTube? Matter of fact, I'll put that in the description below. You should check them out. We drop every Friday on the Black Wrestling YouTube, but episodes normally drop Tuesday afternoons on Where's Buffy podcast on YouTube. Anyway, I'm sorry, Drew.
But this is White Noise, episode 19. I almost thought it was 20, but it's 19. I'm your host, and after this Thursday's episode, I retained. So I am still your BRP predictions champion. And I will be, like I said, I won this title to kick off the year. I'm ending this year as your champion.
You feel that strong about
I would challenge Matt Damon this Thursday 1v1 at Full Gear if he'd be man enough to accept. If he's not happy about the coin flip, I'll challenge him with full gear picks.
Full Gear is this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should I go? Should I try and get tickets?
Remember we talked about maybe doing something, if that was going to be us getting together to maybe do something, but
I want, because the thing is the train in Newark is like, it's right there.
You can't swing any favor. Oh, they necessarily not the same deal as
Drip. I'll say this.
The other company.
I'm gonna say this, Drip. I'm gonna hit my
Pull
guy.
Them strings.
I'm gonna hit my guy over there. If I can get something to happen, cool. If not, it is what it is.
You're not gonna want to miss out on MJF walking away with the AEW title finally.
I don't eat like. Does Daniel Bryan have a match that night?
Yeah, it's him versus Sammy Guevara versus Claudio versus.
Oh,
Chris
they
Jericho.
have the 4-way for the ROH title. Maybe
you can go scissor in the crowd with some fellow New Jerseyans.
I don't think I've ever
people from New Jersey called Jerseyans.
New Jersey, like I think
because if they're New Yorkers, are they New Jerseyers?
I think it's New Jerseyans. I know the local paper. Well, the Trenton's local paper is the Trentonian, and they were like Trentonian. Yeah, but I mean, I don't.
So are they New Yorkers or
I'm from Jersey. Like whenever.
Is that where you from? So you just say I'm from Jersey. So
I'm from Jersey. Like I'm not a New Jersey, and I'm from Jersey. It is.
That was a tough part where I'm like, so they're Wakandans. Are they Talikans or Talikanans? Like.
It was Talocanian. Well, I could like anytime I refer to the people, they were Atlanteans, but I've always known them as Atlanteans because they're from Atlantis.
Yeah, like so we'll get into that a little bit later, but
we'll talk about that a bit. Actually, let me get my.
Even though I had changed this episode topic multiple times, especially last night, like
he sent an email. I forgot that he had sent it to this morning. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that is what we're talking about, huh?
Well, I had hit you in the ground like this is what this week's episode, because I thought it would have paired well, and I've been meaning to do an episode about that topic, and there will be time further down the road anyway. There will be multiple seasons of episodes, and I had saved this. This was an episode I had originally saved, but I had thought, given what I had saw in this past week's episode, and all the hype around Logan Paul as a professional wrestler, I'm like, well, now is probably the time to have this discussion in terms of its relevancy. Like I said, the point I made. So it'll be about Shane McMahon, the money himself, one of my goats, one of my idols.
So he's a goat to you.
Should I start with why and how?
I would. If you're going to call him a goat, I think you're going to have to justify the why.
Yeah,
that's a word you'd use.
Well, given how I'm younger than y'all.
Yes.
I didn't get to see Shane McMahon, billionaire son of Vince McMahon during the Attitude Era. When I started watching in 2003, he was kind of more a weekly performer during that era.
Okay.
And I think the appeal was, even though I would hear he was Shane and that he was Vince McMahon's son, I just kind of respected the fact that he would fight the likes of Kane, because the first feud I could ever really remember was him and Kane in late 03.
Right.
If you put the image of his jersey that says Survivor Series, the feud they had in the ambulance match is one of my favorite matches of all time. I think it's the best ambulance match that there's been. Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman's good, but this is phenomenal. And I had this DVD.
I was gonna say this jersey. I don't know if I'd want to wear
I would want it framed like how football players have it, and like have it in my background. Like
I'm my vintage purchase situation is getting into like the WWE like crew shirts, but this is a really dope piece.
Yeah,
I just don't know if I could wear McMahon.
That's what I mean. I'd have to go in those cases where it's like how the retired guys have their jerseys and just like how they hang them up.
Just got it on display in the house.
Yeah. Maybe signed by him.
Right.
That was
right.
In Dallas, funny enough, in the American Airlines Arena or center. I forget which one they are.
Right.
But I just remember the vignette for that feud, the hype video. It just always stuck in my mind where he was like, Kane, one of us is going to the hospital. And I'm 8 years old at the time, barely watching wrestling. I started watching more a few months later. It just always was like kind of burned into my mind. Like when you come back every so often, like in 06 when him and his dad teamed up to face Shawn Michaels and God, or when he came back in 09 and faced Randy Orton to fight for the honor of his family. And then he was away. And I think as I started learning more about wrestling, I liked the aspect how he was the boss's son that was willing to go out there and do all these crazy stunts. It was kind of like a Bruce Wayne appeal to me. Like he's this rich billionaire's kid who wants to go and do the crazy bumps. And like him in the Attitude Era in the like he'd be seen with women. Like when Stacy Keibler showed up for the invasion angle, he was with Stacy Keibler. Like he had kind of like this billionaire playboy look. And he wrestled in Jordans and the Nike track pants.
He was a whole he looked like somebody who was just showing up for PE class.
Yeah.
That's nuts. He was really with Stacy Keibler though.
On TV is what that was. But like in other angles, it'd be like Shane McMahon and there would be another woman and it would say friend on the chyron. It'd be like this was when? What year was this? 2001 is what him and
I definitely wasn't watching in 2001. This is nuts.
The future ex-girlfriend of George Clooney, yeah.
Sure. How tall is she?
I think she was 6 foot, right?
Hold up. Because she has nothing to do with pro wrestling at this point. She's amazing.
No,
oh shit, she's a Libra. She's 43. She's billed at 5'11", 130. She's all legs.
Yeah, that's literally what it is.
Shouts to Stacy Keibler, yo. Anyway, I'm sorry.
She's like this.
She's not my. She's not my normal
type.
She's not my normal type. But there was something about.
It's the legs.
It's the legs. It's the legs.
Well, no, that like she has like a very like pretty face, like what pretty people are supposed to look like on the surface. They look like
genuinely attractive person.
Yeah, when you like wow, like.
And it looks weird because she's fucking with this guy.
That's the funny thing. Like he totally looks like Vince McMahon, and like when you see like the side by side, there's that famous image in the for the Invasion pay-per-view where it's each of their face split and then combined. Like you see that he has that chin, that same hairline.
Oh yeah, he is young Vince.
Yeah,
for good or ill.
But what did you think of him when you watched during the Attitude Era and this cocky
man? I didn't give a shit about a Shane McMahon. Like he was the thing is, he's the boss's son.
Yeah.
And when you were growing up and watching pro wrestling, like you knew that Vince McMahon was the owner of the WWE.
By then, right? He is the owner. Yeah, that character. So I think I just inherently knew he was the guy in charge for real. Because at that time I thought everything was real. So when he says I'm in charge, I'm like,
but Drip, you got to real. So when was the Austin 316? That was 96, 97.
Yeah. Why don't you open your John 316?
You figure, let's say 96, just to be liberal. I was 15.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's 96 because that's what kicks off the mini feud he has with Bret Hart at the beginning. I mean, in the middle of 96.
But I'm 15, having watched pro wrestling at least hardcore for like 8 years. I knew weekly what was, at the very least, I knew what the show was supposed to be.
Yeah.
At that point, even if I had an inkling a year or two earlier that Vince McMahon may have been a little more involved, it wasn't to the point where it got there where it was like, oh, this man's been playing as a commentator.
Mm-hmm.
He's really running this whole shit. And now I can understand how vested some of his interest would be. So when that situation happened, it was literally, I'm fighting my boss. So when Shane McMahon comes out as the boss's son, I'm immediately like, fuck this guy. I've been around these guys before.
Too. Like,
I don't want to see them.
Face son, like the nepotism of it all.
He's and I'm sorry, Shane. Like Shane, I'm gonna say this. You have to know, sports entertainment. Like what y'all sold me was nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
This guy didn't get over for anything other than the fact of who his father was. So immediately I'm like,
and then, well, no,
fuck him. It's what it. It's not no disrespect, but like as the character, I'm not rooting for that guy. I'm not rooting for this.
Oh no, Chris. That's why he's the rich kid from Greenwich, and they
that's
bring
what I'm
in
saying.
the Mean Street posse, and he's got his like Vinny Chase and the entourage going.
Yeah, the whole crew,
the
beating
pussy
people
posse.
up.
Like like that's the thing. He shows up as this rich kid. And I watched this in hindsight, so I like that. Again, that he shows up. He wins the European title from X-Pac.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets to just fun around being a champion. But again, it's like, oh, it's only because this is the boss's son, and every other wrestler like either helps him out or is against him because of the sway he can have with his dad.
Right.
And what you said about Vince, it always reminds me of the Discord days when Zell, Body More Bottles, shout out to Zell, said when he was a kid that his dad had said, he owns the company, right? About Vince McMahon. Zell's like, the announcer, the guy who's calling he owns, like,
nobody knew. It wasn't a thing. He was just a dude that was calling the matches for a while. So yeah, it was a big deal. But once you see his kid walking down the ramp, you're like, yeah, I shouts to A24. I cannot wait for that Von Erichs film. But it was a lot. It was like, yeah, of course the boss's sons are going to be
nepotism.
able to,
it runs rampant, not just in Hollywood, but wrestling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bill Watts, Eric Watts, like I said, the Von Erichs.
It's a part of life, but the
only place it didn't was the McMahons. Vince McMahon Sr. was dead set on not making Vince McMahon Jr.
But again, that's the thing. It's like, regardless of anything, like what you just said, I grew up on that. You know what I'm saying? So by the time Vince McMahon's son is walking out to the ring, I've seen this show before. I saw Ivan and Scott Putski. I know what they're going to do, and I don't want to see it anymore. But they were, God bless, they were able to do more than just, I'm going to put my son over. Like Shane turned into a thing.
Yeah.
He's been able to wrestle for years later.
Shared that episode when, see, this is how it's weird the universe can work. And we are really in like everything that has happened has already happened type shit. Or time is the flat circle and we constantly repeat it, because you mentioned the Putskis, that How to Get to Candlestick Park episode.
You just shared that the other day.
And that's discussed somewhere in the episode. And when you're like Scott Putski, and you're like, what do you know about Scott Putski Drip and Ivan Putski? I'm like, I know the name, but like I didn't get to see Scott Putski. He's like, every time they talked about Scott Putski, they mentioned Ivan Putski. That's all it was. That episode was a trip, because a lot of stuff has stayed the same in terms of like Ricky Starks, MJF. It was crazy listening to an episode we did 2 years ago. Like I said in the chat, Matt talked about how you can't say, you saying I can't say bitch correctly in their tone, and that episode is the famous like, I love throwing these bitches, and that's me dying. And you'll talk about balding on the blafties in terms of like your hairline's here, and that was the week Eve had brought up.
Shoot, I'm good right now. I'm good today. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm bald today, so we good. We can go bald the whole episode, but
it's just scary how like that works. And I always talk about this with Banks in just terms like, yeah, like deja vu, like what, or the Mandela effect too, right? That whole
Mandela effect is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was gonna say, man, when I
Do you get tripped out by stuff like that? Like,
yes,
what?
well, because again, how old are you, Drip?
27.
20. So I'm 41. 4 decades on this earth. You figure you're cognizant of a lot of shit by the time you're like 5, 6 years old. So 30 plus years, and it's like, wait, the Bernstein Bears weren't spelled that way, or Sinbad was like there's
What's the Sinbad one?
the Kazam or Shazam.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a movie where Shaq was a genie.
Yeah, Kazam.
But people think there was a Shazam.
Like the superhero.
No. Where they think it was the Shaq movie, but it was Sinbad. Hold up.
I don't think I've heard of that one before.
Shaq Mandela. Let me make sure I'm not. Because there was a point where people because the other thing with Sinbad, the comedian, is that like rumors of him being dead come out. He's not dead. I just saw him in something the other day. He was, matter of fact, he's in the 8th episode of season 4 of Atlanta. He's like part of the goof who sat by the door.
Oh,
yeah.
I still haven't gotten to season 4 of Atlanta.
In episode 8, he's got a couple of because they essentially do like they do a documentary. They do a documentary. He's one of the talking heads. Now the Mandela effect was Sinbad. So Shaq did a film called Kazam.
I've seen Kazam years ago.
But there are people 90s kids who believe that there was another genie comedy movie called Shazam starring Sinbad. Now, I'm going to keep it a buck. Actually, let me get this Shane McMahon off the screen, because I as a older black man who is kind of like followed how shit works, especially going from pre-internet to post-internet. Like urban myths are a thing, but racism is a thing. And I'm not saying Sinbad and Shaq look the same, but I'm saying there's probably some mid-America town where some kid was like, oh shit, it's the Shazam movie. But it's because Sinbad was kind of popping around the time Shaq started doing movies. So they put 1 and 1, but a generation of kids thinking that the film was Shazam.
So do they think that Shaq was in House Guest?
No, this is the thing. It doesn't go that deep. It's literally just
I know.
It's just the idea that there were two, or at the very least.
Wait. Doesn't he try to sell Shaq cards in House Guest?
Maybe. I'd have to go. It's been a minute since I've watched House Guest, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, same. My mom loved Phil Hartman.
Well, the thing was like, I mean, Sinbad was in Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, he, for a time in the 90s, he was a go-to black celebrity, and he was already in the industry, so I've seen Sinbad live, but he's so, like, the color of his skin is so much lighter than Shaq's. Where
has anyone ever told you look like Shaq?
And he would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, have you seen us together?" Like, and it's no disrespect to nobody. It's kind of just like, what level of racism births a generation of people thinking that Sinbad was a genie in the movie that Shaq was really.
It goes again to Atlanta, that episode with Justin Bieber, but the whole time woman thinks Ern is whoever that guy she thinks he is, and he's like, I'm not him at all.
That's the funny. People remember that there was a Black Bieber. They do not talk about the fact that there was the subplot of.
Well, the Black Bieber part is phenomenal. It's the best.
Wait, Drip. Go back to,
because when he goes like, I got Bieber, he's like, settle down. No, I got Bieber. Like,
we're recording this days after season 4 of Atlanta ended, so I've been in an Atlanta zone all week. Season 1, episode 5 or episode 6, nobody Nobody Beats the Biebs, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
If you compare the amount of screen time that Black Justin Bieber had compared to the amount of time where this white lady thinks that Earn is somebody she used to work with, it would make people remembering that it was a Black Justin Bieber look silly, because so much of that episode is about this white lady mistaking this black guy for somebody she used to work with. Like the inherent what is it called? I mean, it's racism, but it's like
no, it is inherent racism because again, she thinks he's someone that he's not just because.
But like
he
to the point,
to be black.
To the
that's
point,
his whole thing too. Is like I'm not him.
Well, no, he said that's not me, and she's like, "Ha,
good one." That's all typical. You
fucking
right?
lie.
Like,
yeah, you would say that. Like it's so. It's
but
so
that was
again.
The whole point of that show.
What a brilliant show.
Was to sell you one thing, but meanwhile, this is what really is going on. This like that famous comparison from the beginning was Twin Peaks meets rap.
Yeah, I think that Twin Peaks meets hip hop was it was a great way to
because like
sell you on the idea. But even still, like if you watched Twin Peaks, Atlanta was kind of so much more. Like Atlanta had to do a lot more because Twin Peaks could be weird for the sake of being weird.
Yeah, well, it's David Lynch. Yeah,
Atlanta. Well, you say we're so far. You say it's David Lynch, but that's white media, right? Like it's because let me say this. Because white people don't have to deal with racism. Their entertainment doesn't have to go into that zone. Black people, that's how we got here. You feel what I'm saying? So at some point, our very smart, very critical entertainment is going to have to look at the society that we're living in. And that's the beauty. We're so far. That's the beauty about Atlanta, is that we're able to have these conversations on TV where we can talk about the oddity about a world where somebody like Justin Bieber would be black.
Well, because the commentary of like the way people talked about him when he was wild, and that was like how they talk about most rappers, but like since he's white, he can get away with it. That's why it was so genius, and I caught it on right away. Because I mean, I guess I hate saying I'm in tune to stuff like that, but it was just
talk your shit.
So obvious and that's why it was brilliant. Because and then when he does the apology at the end, like I'm sorry all for my actions, but my new song is coming out, and that was like Justin Bieber like did the 180 with purpose and found God, and everyone was like, oh my God, yay! They forgave him pissing in buckets and all that, and that was the whole point of the fake Tavis Smiley show, right? The fake Charlie Rose show, where like Big Boy's there to defend rap. And then the woman flips sides. I do agree with you. And then the host gets mad, like, well, what about violence against women? And he was like,
Montague. Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodies.
And then he's like, the fuck? Like when he tries to like flip the dynamic because he sees that they're teaming up. Like,
but wait, so you saw all of seasons 1 and 2?
I've seen all of seasons 1, 2, and 3. Remember, we talked about 3 earlier this year. I just haven't started 4 yet. Is what it is.
Well, I'm gonna say this, and I'm just anybody out there that watches Atlanta is not caught up. Season 3 returns to that stuff so much that I hope it's November. I hope you watch that season.
4.
I'm sorry.
I said because we did season 3 was like they were trying to do a little bit of both, like standalone stories and that first season vibe.
But what I'm saying is this: season 4 goes back to season 1 a lot, like in terms of vibe. Like, think of the show as if you love season 1, season 2 they took a little further. They were starting to show you that, like it. Even if you knew what Twin Peaks was in season 1, season 2, this is Twin Peaks. You're going to get some odd shit that's kind of connected.
Watched season 1 of Twin Peaks before, and like I think after 3 episodes of season 2, I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
it'd be bugged out.
It never picked it back up, I think.
And they always teased it. But once you got to season 3, if you were thrown off, I understand. But it's a show that like it grew. It wasn't a series that was like, we're gonna do this shit and then go back. Once they stepped over a line, they were gonna keep doing it. But by the time you got to season 4, where all this shit happened and they go back to Atlanta, it's got that season 1 vibe. It's just seasoned, if you understand what I'm saying. Like it's learned. Atlanta's a show that learned from what it did in season 2 and season 3. So when it got back to where it was to end the show, they retained that knowledge and applied it. Season 4 is phenomenal of Atlanta. It's a really good season. It gets back to the basics while not trying to sugarcoat or hold your hand for anything. It's challenging television, just like trying to accept this man as a viable pro. So let me ask you a question, Drip.
Hang on real quick. I think that's because season 2 and 3, in a way, by Donald Glover being the creative he wanted to tell these different stories, and that he had this outlet with this show. Yeah. And this network kind of giving him all the leeway and all the freedom to do what he and his brother wanted to do here on Mariah as well. That they could go out and do, the rich man, poor man story. They can go out and do free hugs. See, I don't know if I can even. That's a topic for another day.
Free hugs is crazy. Free hugs was crazy.
Well, 3 slaps is the real name.
No,
but that's big on that store. Big to do stuff like that within a world where there's no urn, there's
him having a placard on that said "free hugs" and that conversation.
Is hugs your father?
Is hugs your father killed me?
Yeah,
it's.
Again, I understand the ignorance of white people to be like.
It's the show is so funny, but a lot of the shit that's funny hurts.
Yeah.
Being a little black kid and having a placard that says free, because he was out there
because
he
wants to shoot a dog, and they're like, "The fuck's wrong with you?" He's like, "You're shooting people. Dogs? Don't you see what's wrong when you're shooting?"
How you got a piece of paper that's got a little dog target on it?
Yeah.
Again, this is Drip. I'm gonna say this. We should get back to Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
But this is why you rock with us, because you understand that even if you're a decade plus younger, you shouts out to Big Mike. You understand how things should work. So even if you're not 100%, you're not 100% the Atlanta target audience, but because of how you've been brought up, you can see why the world is fucked up, and these episodes of Atlanta make sense. So, kudos to Big Mike. I think we should get back to your boy.
Well, even that in its own ways, because again, kids who grew up post Attitude Era, you see highlights constantly of Jeff Hardy off the ladder,
right?
Choke slams through announcement tables, extreme matches, and in this way, Vince McMahon birthed his own son in the wrestling sense to be, I don't want to say like the poster child, but like he is, and I can see why math is not fun of him. I mean, Shane McMahon matches run the same beat. Like he'll run in, he'll throw himself at someone, he'll throw kind of his bad punches where he's like, like his boxing, which again maybe also is. Even though I always hate giving people benefit of the doubt, we're like, are they in on the joke?
Right. Right.
But again, Shane McMahon is the guy who does jujitsu and maybe, and probably takes a couple of boxing classes. So he probably like, I'm going to, and again, he does the Ali shuffle in a way where again, like he not just for his entrance, but when in the match, he'll do that fake and then punch you. Like the match then
you don't need to be doing that.
The match then builds like him getting his ass beat.
Right.
Him, pushing someone to the steps or the corner post, laying them out on the announcement table. He'll do his diving elbow drop, then he'll go coast to coast. And like I say, it comes in this era where like Wrestling Society X or TNA and all these high spots, the indies, you can see guys do flips and all the crazy stuff. And in these extreme matches, death-defying stunts, and he is just as much a glorified stuntman as Mick Foley was during his era in WWE, or his time in WWE. But that's what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a movie with the way the storylines were and how the matches were staged to be these action set pieces. And there's no bigger set piece than this Shane McMahon match, and he's kind of carried that with him. And I think not only he probably had that resentment from certain fans, but probably certain other wrestlers, that this guy, because he's the boss's son, gets to go out and do all the stuff that we can't do because he has this freedom and leeway. Again, much like a Donald Glover in a way, where, but that's, again, he earned that by being creative and putting in the work on community and stand up and all that in music. But Shane McMahon was handed the golden opportunity to be this wrestler for the Attitude Era, and it seemed to kind of last a little bit for the Ruthless Aggression. And I remember when it was announced that he was leaving WWE in the late 2000s, like that was on the websites, like he announced that he was departing. And then the underlying thing is the succession part of it is like, was this man at one point destined to run the company? What would you think of that, given the context of the show and how the company is now?
It's funny because in not preparing for this episode, but I've been randomly watching shit on YouTube about the last couple of seasons of Succession, so it's been fresh in my mind. I don't think Shane McMahon was a Logan Roy. He's probably more of a Connor, but Vince only had Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane. I don't think he was going to give Stephanie that job because I don't think he thought she could understand the whole totality of it. I don't think he believed in Shane to give him that
like
job.
How he doesn't believe in Kendall. Yeah.
The only person that made sense was a Triple H.
And the funny, because in like the real dynamics, Triple H is a Tom. He is the son-in-law.
Yeah, 100%.
Who is willing to do whatever he can to please the father-in-law.
Has been shit on by the patriarch because of some other transgressions for a year ago, but made
also
sure that he ate it all.
Yeah, but will also like demean others, like how Triple H would demean the smaller wrestlers, like how he demeans Greg.
Who's his Greg? Who's Triple H's Greg? If
Chris Jericho would have come back, it would have been interesting to see what he did with Chris Jericho back. If Chris Jericho had signed with them a few weeks ago, shown up and done what he's been doing in AEW, like just complete freedom, like to the company's detriment in a way at times, that would, I think, show that this guy that you feuded off and on with, there was maybe something a little bit more that he's, again, because Greg is blood by being
he's the brother's like grandson or something like
that. Yeah. So he's still technically in the Roy family, even though he said, I'm a Hirsch.
Right.
Because that's his father is not the one that has connections, it's his mother. But like, I always wondered if Triple H was jealous how Jericho could get over with anything and everything, and how he literally did everything and anything Vince asked.
Maybe
that's a whole nother thing. But
I'll say this: like Succession, Tom was the guy. Like at the end of episode or season 3, it took Triple H a minute. Like he had to sit there and eat crow and eat shit for a while. He was a great wrestler in terms of main event status, marquee status.
Well, Tom doing the "We Hear You" is like NXT. Is that a flop or is that a success to people? Because everyone's like, "Wait, you actually hear us?" Like,
right?
And does Tom know how to run the news network that he's in control of? Is like Triple H doing NXT, and in some people's mind, that was that was the best thing in wrestling in the last 5 years. To others, it was it was all right. Or from that 15 to 2021.
Very interesting, man. This is
the Shane McMahon part again, while being, I said, a good wrestler, because that's what we talked about. And when I made that point of him being Logan Paul, and is Logan Paul a good wrestler or a good person playing a wrestler? Like the argument has been made that he understands the business. He can put the work into the match, obviously, but like I made the argument, he does a lot of high spot stuff, similar to Shane McMahon. He's not willing to do, and who knows if he even can, the like technical work rate that my dad and Matt had discussed while them being fans of, like, the Malenkos or, those real technical, like, holds wrestlers. Like Logan Paul was doing top rope clotheslines, dives to the outside, again at the table spot like Shane McMahon. What was the meat of the match in between? Him getting beat up by Roman Reigns, and then there's a huge kind of schmoz at the end, right?
Well, what was Shane doing though?
The stuff I said at the start of this episode when we talked about, and the stuff Logan Paul just did. And what matters is, like we had said, what we all come to agreement on Thursday was, like, it's entertaining. There was a moment in that match that you were entertaining, whether it was Shane McMahon diving from the top of the entrance ramp onto the Big Show, even though, like, what happened until then, a bunch of nothing. But that spot was cool. Like,
I'm glad you say it's entertaining, because I will say this: we're kind of we've been jumping around all night, because you know why? Time's a flat circle. But there was this match.
So that's what I was gonna say. The run he came back with. He has that epic return in 2016, which was a real surprise to me. I think that was one of the last genuine surprises in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
The unannounced return in Detroit when Stephanie got the award and he shows up. And that's a great, again, Shakespearean type story where he says, I have my 3 sons, and I hope that one day I can leave this company to them. And then Stephanie's like, well, what about my 3 daughters? And I'm like, how does the son have 3 sons and the daughter have 3 daughters? And meanwhile, the father of those 3 daughters is the guy who's the champion of the company. Like, it didn't make any sense. Again, like, this Vince McMahon write out his own life. He's like, so Stephanie will have 3 daughters, and then Shane will have 3 sons.
I could see it. I could totally see it.
I don't want to get dark, but oh, we're having her and Triple H, we're having a boy pop. No, you're not. You're not. Nope. You give that baby up.
Awful.
Shane McMahon comes back. He has that match with The Undertaker, in which I expected. I think I did expect him to win in terms of, like, to take control of the company, because that would have made sense going forward. Like, he's in control, Triple H and then we're in control. But Shane loses. He gets to win Raw the next night, and they bring up Apollo Crews, Tyler Breeze, Enzo and Cass, and I think one other actor from NXT, and it was like, they're gonna. That's like Triple H. That's like Shane McMahon taking credit from Triple H's work. Like, hey, what'd you get for number 3 over there? Like, and then later on, they have the brand split in the summer of 2016, and then Shane McMahon is like the commissioner of SmackDown. He has a few matches after that. He competes in the Survivor Series match where, like, Roman Reigns spears him into CTE, with a coast to coast where he spears and takes him down. Like, they just, like, waved it off. Like, Shane McMahon was just out after that. And him to say, and I think on the first episode we had this debate, Fam and I. This might be a future White Noise, or maybe it might have to be a Black Wrestling Podcast Club, and you play mediator with AJ Styles versus Ricky Steamboat. I had said that AJ Styles and Shane McMahon had a classic at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, which kicked off the show, the main show, I should say.
I remember that, because you saying classic sounds crazy. Yeah,
and he did. Well, it's again on AJ Styles, but there's a dope moment where, like, AJ Styles goes for the 450 splash from the top rope and from the springboard, and Shane McMahon catches him in a fucking triangle choke. That was when Shane McMahon came back in better shape than he was when he first wrestled. I mean, that hormone, that human growth hormone, and he had some jujitsu classes. He was ready to work, and I was surprised that he was still having matches.
Well, yeah, because you were surprised because all y'all saw was this.
But did you hate any of this? Like, when he would do this, were you just like rolling your eyes, like how I do anytime
I'll say this
tries to do his storytelling in matches?
Look at this. So you see, because Steve Blackman's standing there right on the left.
Yeah,
it made sense with the story. Mm-hmm. Like, they were fighting.
He was running. Shit. He was legit running. The whole time.
And at a certain point, if you're going to get that high up on some scaffolding you shouldn't be on, somebody's going to get knocked down. And that turning into him jumping off the Hell in a Cell and landing on fucking tables that have inflatable cushions. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't look at him as, like, this is my thing. I'm sorry to destroy your goat trip.
One of my goats.
You can have the boss's son be death defiant. I'm fine. if the company's on the line, his father's on the line, his rep is on the line. Yeah, if the last move he's got to do is get the fuck up all the way on top of the cage and jump down, fine. Sorry, this don't need to be the spot because this is always a spot. There was a spot I saw it hit my Instagram reels the other day where the spot where he jumped off the cage in the Reese's match with the Undertaker, and Undertaker jumped off the table.
Just in time, yeah.
I don't like. Why do I need? If his arsenal,
because at that point, that was the first time someone had jumped off the Hell in a Cell with the new version of it being taller than it originally was. Yeah.
Who's done it since?
Him. Because don't forget, he did it.
What a pointless spot.
Yeah, I see he did it in that Kevin Owens story. Remember, because when Sami Zayn was this guardian angel saving Kevin Owens at the last second.
So the professional wrestlers don't do the spot.
That was my argument, is that the nepotism of him being the boss's son and the X mark against him, why Shane McMahon isn't good, is the leeway he gets to do the dope stuff. Wow. But again, who else is going to want to do that? Are you going to try and tell me that like Zack Ryder would die to do that spot to get over? Probably, but I mean,
it ain't even him. There's only the thing is spots like that are reserved for people who, because that's one of those things where if you hit that spot, you're over, right? Like you can't tell me that someone hits a move off the top rope and they're not over. I mean, that feels like Logan Paul, right?
That's what I'm saying. Not to mark anything against Logan Paul, even though I think he has impressed in the 3 matches he has. But I think the whole one people love to do the like he's better than Will Ospreay because of the vendetta they have against Will Ospreay and all his flips and the number of 5-star matches. And he did the buckshot better than Hangman Page. Just again, people who are pro WWE to shit on AEW. But I do think again Logan Paul is a good entertainment wrestler, like my dad, and as we all agree, he's good. He's able to put on a WWE match. Can he put on a wrestling match?
He did it.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Same thing with Bad Bunny. Like he can wrestle a WWE match. Can he wrestle? Could he have a match in AEW? Because the thing we forgot this year with the number of in the last 2 years, the number of entertainers or athletes that have come to wrestling. Pat McAfee again is able to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Action Bronson was pretty impressive.
He put on a whole match. Yeah?
But again, he didn't do high spots. He did basic slams and drops, and
he was able to run in there with a match. I think the thing is Logan Paul.
I'm saying that wasn't hyped as much because it was AEW. It's because he didn't do nothing impressive to stand out. What did Pat McAfee do? He wrestled in a War Games match for a second ever match. What did Bad Bunny do? He hit a Canadian Destroyer on John Morrison. And what's Logan Paul doing? He's jumping from the top rope to the announce table outside.
But remember, this guy, Roman Reigns, is going to go down in history as being a 1,000-day champion or something like that. And they're going to say in those documentaries, they're going to say, "Yo, Roman made everybody look like a million." Look at Logan Paul. I do not in this image, this still image alone. I do not believe he beats Roman. Frog splashes, tearing your ACL, MCL, and meniscus on fucking splashes to the announce. Like that shit looks great.
And what's the thing too is like Logan Paul looks like a wrestler in this outfit, and also like in the modern look of like shorter guys, leaner bodies.
They're athletic.
You see Shane McMahon, like he has again a dope custom baseball jersey, Nike track pants, Nike Air Flights or Jordan 3s. Like
literally,
he looks like a guy who isn't a wrestler, but like, and he's famous for holding his own against Kurt Angle, Kane, Randy Orton, AJ Styles. Like in these images, again, people that can carry guys, great wrestlers, and he is the underdog in this story. So to me, there's that, like I said, that element of like whether he was the heel or the face of being like the boss's son, or that meant the good thing or the bad thing, or again like this billionaire who just comes in to like prove himself against the boys to show he can hang.
Was Shane trying to be a wrestler?
I think he tells like that story of like when he was a kid, he said I was going to win the tag titles of Andre the Giant. I had told my dad that, and I think he probably did. And it was probably one of those things like, I don't want you doing that. So he played football and like wrestled in high school or whatever it was. And I bet like, you know, you can wrestle, but you won't be a wrestler. I bet it was one of those things. You know what I mean? Like,
that makes sense. The one Vince looks at him, he's like, yo, sports entertainment, I got you. The 130 weight class, sad. I hope it's not a situation where he was doing all this shit to like prove it to his dad that he can fucking go.
I always think, and I think it's probably universal, that's like the underlying theme of like, you know, you'll do kind of anything for people's approval, OGs, fathers, mothers, anyone, like, you know.
Don't do that.
I think in a way it was like, not this like, you know, again, him and his dad had a match. I wonder how much there was like,
right,
how much work was into that, you know, like, you know, don't lay into me, like, oh, I won't, like, you know, like
a drip. Impress me by being dope. Do dope shit in the world.
You like? Again, he has the famous angle match at King of the Ring.
No, all right. So my favorite Shane McMahon spot is the Kurt Angle belly to belly into the glass and the whole fucking like panel shatters.
Oh, not when it didn't break the 3 times prior.
Nah, there was one that
and Shane McMahon's like, do it again, and Craig was like, I have a broken tailbone, I can barely throw you at all. Like
I remember that match because for some reason somebody in the video edit department, my previous employer, was making a cut. This was like 5-6 years ago. They were making a cut of Shane McMahon's like highlights in the WWE, and the one highlight I remember is the Kurt Angle fucking suplex through the glass panel, and it looks so dope. And it reminds me ECW where like untrained risk takers were willing to.
They put the plywood on the top turnbuckle and he does the angle slam off that. Like
he was ready to get his ass beat.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
The story was again this rich prick stealing this guy's gold medals and like making fun of him and doing the cocky asshole thing. Like, I'm gonna out wrestle the Olympic gold medalist, and like he shows up at that match and like does like a takedown and Kurt Angle like sprawls it right away and like does the spin over and like slaps the back of his head. Like, come on, yeah, that. I think that's Kurt Angle being Kurt fucking Angle, but
right.
I think people, they don't have to respect Shane McMahon. Just like, again, like I necessarily don't respect Logan Paul. I think he's good, and it's not just the outside stuff. I mean, like he's a guy who shows up and they bend the rules again to allow him to have a good match. Like, how come no one else at Crown Jewel got to like break someone through a table? Why didn't Omos pick up
right
on Strowman and choke him through the table or
right.
you know, anything else? But that's the way it works. They saw Logan Paul as a draw, and I think in a way, Vince saw Shane to be like this draw. Like, well, if the main hero is beating me up and people love it, they're gonna love it when they beat my son up.
No, that's
and then they're gonna love it when the son wants to fight me in that whole story. And again, what did you think when he bought WCW in that great moment of I now own WCW? The contract does say McMahon.
What that was like, March of that year. I swear to God.
March of 01, yeah.
So I was I went to school. I graduated spring of '99. So fall of '99, I was going to college. And I had by the time I left high school, I was out of pro wrestling. Like, for sure. That year, between like May of '99 and June, fall of the following year, I was not watching shit. I missed a crucial year. So by the time
you missed WrestleMania X7, the biggest Mania, you know.
But like 98, I was kind of already pulling because I was so. I'm telling you, I was born 81. So you're talking about 16, 17 years. I was
it's the era where people will fall out kind of between 13 and 19.
I was trying. I was out there. I was in the world. I mean, shit. We on Patreon. I was probably trying to get some girls or something. Like I was trying
titties and
like you know where the ass at. Like, you know, I'm trying to figure out the rest of the world.
There's stuff.
But I got back into pro wrestling.
Like we all do after you either gotten some titties and like, what else is there?
Oh yeah, but by the time,
all right, Cal, you don't.
By the time Shane McMahon bought WWE, I had all types of mouths,
you
and
doing the Ric
titties,
Flair.
and coochies. Like, you know,
Space Mountain ladies.
it was a couple of years, you know, I was trying to figure life out, but I want to say that I remember that show, that last Nitro. It felt like it was a big deal to me. And at the end where Shane was talking shit to his dad from the other like you could flip channels and see this shit going on both. It was so amazing to me, but then you wake up Tuesday morning like, wait,
did that really happen?
Shane McMahon's gonna run WCW,
and he didn't.
No, and he didn't. But it was a good storyline at the time,
and then
it made sense.
I don't know if this is really revisionist history. It also sounds like him in the way his mindset was, because I think they said he was very influential in the Tyson coming over.
Right. He was big into a lot. Well, you figure by the time
Floyd Mayweather as well, he had played a part in that kind of getting started as well, because I think the rumor was him and Floyd against Show and Mysterio or something like that.
If you remember, a lot of
Oscar De La Hoya was involved at one point as well. Yeah, I think Ray and Oscar versus Floyd and Shane.
A lot of what Shane did when he left WWE and started like trying to figure out the world, it was about getting live action sports on companies outside of the US. Like he was interacting internationally for a while, and it would be like, all right, what's this pay-per-view? Let's set up this division to get these pay-per-views. Like he made sense
too. One of my favorite golfers is Rory McIlroy, and it might have been when he won the US Open the first time in 2010, 2011. They show him like walking up to the putting green, or right after he had been declared the winner, like he hugged someone, and I'm like, is that Shane McMahon? And like, it is, because like I said, he had left in the late 2000s after I think he saw the writing on the wall that it wasn't going to be him.
Right.
For a number of reasons, like not just Vince refusing to step down, but the positioning of Stephanie for, you know, advancing. Triple H for years had been a wrestler, but working backstage as well. And I think you probably saw more and more of him getting control and like, you know what, I'm just never going to have my shot, so I'll cash out.
Not going to work.
And that's why that story was so good in 2016. He's like, listen, I took a step back and now I'm here. And he has that great line, like, I never lost my place in line. Like, and that, to me, that story works so well. I mean, I gave one image of him and Brock Lesnar. We'll put that on the screen, because to me, there were two dream matches that we haven't gotten. And one of them would have been Brock and Shane, just for the spectacle of like Brock Lesnar.
You want to see this match?
Yes, I'm the only one who probably wants to see like Brock Lesnar throw Shane McMahon around. And then, like,
all right, because I was gonna say,
and then Shane McMahon like get the fiery comeback and like again,
you think all right,
table, put him in a fucking triangle choke, and Brock Lesnar and like picks him up and slams him. Like
in your mind, Monday Night Raw has Brock Lesnar coming out challenging Shane McMahon for a match at whatever pay-per-view.
Not now. I wanted to see it during this when he came back.
I'm just saying.
After he fucked up Randy Orton with those elbows.
Let's say this is one of the leading matches to WrestleMania in LA this year or next year. You're okay, because at a certain point, they look about the same height. There's no way Shane McMahon is taking out Lesnar.
No.
So do you want to see McMahon get offense in, or are you just here for him getting the shit beat out of him?
Both. It's that, like I said, he'll get the upper hand at some point, and then Brock Lesnar will do Brock Lesnar things. And then this, Shane McMahon will throw all he can against. He'll try to do a shooting star press for a guy who's 50 something now, which I mean he can, but it's still like, oh my god, halfway through, it's like, don't fucking. Maybe that's when Brock Lesnar breaks out the shooting star press. Like, look what I can do. Like.
So is it?
The story would have worked better back then, not so much now, because it sounds like a Saudi match, but in America, the way you're
sounds like a Saudi match.
It would have worked then when they were having the brand split in this image at the SummerSlam in 2016. Like, instead of Brock challenging Goldberg at Survivor Series 2016, it should have been Shane versus Brock. Because you're on a different show, I can't do anything until we're both on the same show when it's brand versus brand. It would have worked then,
I get it,
but
but
that ship had sailed, unfortunately.
Well, even like I think,
and now it really can't work because like it maybe would have worked in that context too. Like Vince McMahon sets Brock Lesnar on the warpath to annihilate Shane. If Shane was still running one show, but he isn't.
The context, yeah.
Or Stephanie does it again, like given the history that he's had with Triple H, they always do that. Like we'll write one thing and erase it back in terms of like the history we have or didn't have.
You can't just say, oh, because the other thing is we've been podding how long, Drip? 2 years?
Yeah.
Who you were 2 years ago is different than who you are now, right? You've grown.
I think that's the bad thing.
well, let me say this on like a general level. You've grown from 2020 to 2022. I don't think there's any way you can say you haven't grown. But we're in a situation where
maybe that's why I like Drake so much. Is like we refuse to grow.
Well, no, that's kind of what I'm getting into. Is
we regress. If any, not like his work hasn't, but like you're supposed to grow as a person. So he's like, I don't want to be a better person. I'm going to be.
I think the idea is the Shane McMahon of this should be able to have like a legit match here.
Yeah. And they could have done it then too, was the unfortunate part, but they didn't.
But no, don't say they didn't. Well, no, because think about it. This was when?
2016.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
This was when?
19 years ago.
Almost
literally, yeah.
Well, all right, so 13 years in between. You think Shane McMahon been training?
Yeah, remember they with that comeback match for the Undertaker, they showed him doing Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And like I said, he's in better shape now. He has abs, even though like
13 years between this and this, right? When did Shane McMahon start training?
The second he
heard that this was going to be a match, right?
No, as soon as he was going to sign back and face the Undertaker, he started.
But wait.
It's like he was rusty, but he's like, I'm going to do everything I can to beat the Undertaker.
Let's be liberal. 10 and a half, 11 and a half years where he wasn't training.
You never know. Yeah, he was having matches in between this time period. Like I said, he came back to face
10 years. Let's say 10 years between this. Hold up. Is there a year on this?
Yeah, 2003. So I said 19 years.
I'm going to tell you, Drip. Ask your father. The man he was 19 years ago getting into a fight.
Oh, he would say no because he's
versus the man he is right now. No. It's a different mind state. It's a different body.
Was like my Achilles is bad. Like they think I might have done.
You can't think about it the same way. So that's the thing. It's like when I see this, that's why I'm like, yo, y'all sure you could? But
this is wrestling. Anything can happen.
No, you're right. But I don't like
a man can put his hands in his pockets and hit you with a drop kick.
But wait, Drip. The thing is like I'm in a state. I don't want to say I'm at the perfect stage, but like I'm at an age where I've been watching pro wrestling enough to know what's going to happen, and I also am old enough.
Involves Bryan Danielson.
Sure, I'm old enough to understand that things are going to stay the way it is. So when I see this, my immediate thought is Brock's winning.
Yeah, as you should. But almost every Brock Lesnar match. That's what I've said for you. Like. And there's no way he shouldn't beat everyone. But then again, like when someone like Omos is bigger than Brock, shouldn't he be able to beat Brock? Or no, because he's lumbering around. But
regardless, Shane McMahon shouldn't beat Brock or Omos, right?
He didn't beat Braun Strowman. Remember?
He shouldn't have beat Braun Strowman.
No, he didn't.
He doesn't need to be beating these people. There's no conversation around this. Look at that guy in the middle. He's like, hey, when is this going to happen? Let me make sure this ends. Like, how are you looking at this photo and be like, yo, Shane McMahon really about to beat Brock Lesnar ass. That's not how it works.
Well, that's the story. That's because that right after that is with the backstage incident where Chris Jericho goes up to Brock Lesnar, is like, "What the fuck?" And Brock Lesnar does the kiss me. Come on, give me a kiss. Because Chris Jericho tries to get like in Brock Lesnar's face, and Brock was like, "You know, you're not going to do nothing to me." So that would have been the point of the story. It's like, you're Shane McMahon. You're again, and Paul Heyman would have told you like, you're the rich guy. You're the owner's son. What are you going to do to Brock Lesnar? You're not going to do anything.
Good point. All good
points. And that's why that Kane feud was so good in 03, and I love it. And there are two great videos on YouTube where this guy has like cut the storyline aspects.
You said 03?
Yeah.
We're we're almost 20 years away from that.
Yeah, I know. And that's like when Kane's unmasked, it's that story. Like,
but so wait.
When Kane was again, Kane fucking put the jumper cables on his fucking crotch and then
drip. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. We gotta get out here soon. March 2023. Random Monday Night Raw. Shane McMahon shows up. He's probably got some heat on. He's very good with the sneakers.
Always. I gotta put that. This is probably the cover. It's probably the best cover to get.
He's very good with the sneakers.
But again, he has a great sneaker shopping episode. It's my favorite episode of sneaker shopping.
A great sneaker shopping episode. Like
this is what I want to be in 20 years.
I will say
that's why I'm hitting the gym now, so I can.
There's one thing specifically where a lot of the questions I wrote got in there. I remember having a conversation about this episode because they'd already done New Day. They already talked to Enzo. There was a couple people in pro wrestling we had talked to about sneakers. So the idea was, yeah, currently there's a lot of sneaker guys in there, but this guy,
he's the guy.
Ask Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan would say, "Yo, Shane McMahon was rocking shit for her."
Ask Stone Cold. Be like, "Yeah, he has some. I think he has some Nikes on his feet."
Look at that shit. Like he's always got, and it's not even like.
That's another reason why he's the fit. Again, like I said, it's just a custom jersey.
But wait
till I make the custom drip champion.
But look at this.
BRP champion hoodie.
What I'm saying is, he probably had like. Look at this. The one I'm pointing to. This right here.
Threes.
He probably, those are true blue threes. I don't know what year this is, but I'm going to assume
that's 06.
Let me do a check. Did Nike Air Jordan 3 True Blue 2006? Like, I could see him spending $200 on a 2009. What was it released before that? Anyway, he had those shoes. Those shoes are not cheap. And all he did was wrestle in them. I've spoken to Enzo Amore. I've spoken to a number of people who wrestled in expensive sneakers. You have to have a mentality of, look, I know once I put these shoes on,
they're done.
They're at the very least are not worth what it is on the street.
But that's why when he came back, he started wearing like the real Jordan line, like the 33s or the 31s.
Yeah, he was wearing
some
random shit. Yeah, he was wearing
the Jordans that like they were trying to convince Jason Tatum or Kawhi Leonard, like Jordan Brand athletes, to wear during games, because they had stopped caring about look and cared more about function. He wrestled in those, but he continued to show up as the commissioner of.
But you got to look at the time too.
In ones,
it
was smart. If he would start wrestling in 12s or 8, people on Twitter were like, "What is he like Enzo?" But I think internet was too early in terms of, like, if Enzo was relevant now, and that's why private party is a big deal, or the Young Bucks, or anyone who does it these days, Ricochet.
I think part of that, though,
what are you doing? Like Finn Balor with his black Jordan ones.
I think part of that, though, Drip, was by the time, because he was gone for a bit, right? Like he was in WWE, and then he went overseas somewhere to try and figure out some cable stuff.
Singapore or something like that, yeah.
So I think when he came back, I'm not saying that it was like a culture clash, but I do think that if he was a sneakerhead before the game changed, and he had to figure out how to go with it. Like if he was around for the last 10 years, it would have been easier than getting, what's the Jordan 33 or whatever his shit is. Like people don't want to see that on TV.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns ain't wearing the Jordan 34. He's looking for whatever the Jordan 1 remix that's out right now.
Now he is. Don't forget when he was first doing this tribal chief thing. He was
when
showing
he
up
first
in those basic Jordans, and then he had to get it right after people catching on.
That let me, and I will say this: your boy Shane McMahon is a sneaker guy when it comes to wrestling in dope sneakers. It wasn't a thing. If I owned a pair of True Blue,
you wouldn't be wearing them.
If I owned a pair of True Blue 3s right now, I'd wear them for a photo,
and that's it.
I'd wear them to the movies. But once I got home, they're going back in the box. I'm not climbing a scaffold, jumping off a scaffold. Like, there's too much going on with them, and they're so hard. The True... Let me get a pic. You're not like a big sneaker guy, right?
As we discussed, I like shoes. I just don't have the resources to spend on.
Of course.
And again, I like the basics. And that's the thing is, what again draws me to Shane McMahon is like the billionaire fashion appeal. Like he'll wear the plain long sleeve shirt, a blazer, some jeans that are properly like length and not like flooding or like too short, like, and then some Jordan ones with it. And once we finally make it and like get paid and have a sponsor, that's how I'll be dressing permanently, is that billionaire fashion. It'll just be all white Jordan ones.
Look at it.
Or all white Air Force Ones as well. Yeah. Or if I can get my hands on that or some other Jordans I've been fond of.
The True Blue Jordan 3s. With the elephant, I couldn't wrestle in these. He's fucking jumping off of the shit that holds the lights up.
The rich are the rich.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like back then,
Wall Street. Here you go.
The era you look at to say, "Yo, Shane McMahon's my GOAT." It's the True Blue 3s. He's death defying, falling off of shit. All I'm saying is, at a certain point, you're praising a stuntman.
Yeah. There are times, like I said, where he can hold his own in a match and kind of go hold for hold a bit, but then it's like, but then at some point, if it was just to be that, I think people would be pissed. Like, where are the stunts? It's like when Drake just was doing the house music on Honestly Nevermind, and like, this is it. You just wanted to do this, and then that's why he has to put Jimmy Cooks at the end to give you that Drake rapping song, and it was like, But for Shane McMahon, he does have to do the stunt stuff because it's like, we came here and to see you do that, and we expect that from you. And that's the shitty part of being a wrestling fan, is the expectation of what you previously delivered. So when people try to switch it up, it's hard to do so. And him starting off as that stuntman wrestler and being that stuntman wrestler has not been his burden, but like maybe that's why he continues to do it. And was doing it, but also had to take a few years off, even if he wasn't on good terms. It was also like good for him physically as well. Like, you can't keep dropping off or doing this constantly, as we've seen with Jeff Hardy, unfortunately, and other people. And probably might see if Darby Allin, if he continues to so. But he's, like I said, someone who can go hold for hold and is underrated as a wrestler.
Keep that man in Japan. If you let Darby Allin cook in Japan, 2023 would be so much brighter.
But the other dream match, I would say, that was the obvious, especially when he came back, was him and Triple H at some point, just for like the storyline implications.
They never wrestled?
No, not when he came back. I think they might have at some point in like 2000 or 2000.
But not during the era you remember.
No, not during his comeback in 2016. They haven't. The only time they crossed paths was that Survivor Series match where Triple H inserted himself on the Team Raw.
All their photos are like just cool.
Yeah.
There's no like we got beef photos at all.
Yeah, which there is. Again, he's this man's brother-in-law.
Gotta be, right?
But I think they had it, and it would have been too weird, but it also would have been good if, like I said, Shane McMahon comes back in 2016 on the road to WrestleMania, and instead of facing the Undertaker for control of the company, he faces Triple H, who's the champion at the time. They could have done something there too. But that's a lot of like rewriting history or rewriting fantasy booking, because we are dreamers here at White Noise. We can be dreamers here, Cal, in fantasy book. Mimi's not here to say hush up, be realistic, or again, to call back to Wayne, live in the now. Like,
I'm gonna say this, Drip. Mimi be online and she'd be like, yo, they'd be like, yo, shouts out to Mimi for telling man
keeping
to shut
it
the
real.
fuck up. Yeah, I mean,
that's
like
Keeks as well. It's but Mimi, the women in our lives do have to tell us, shut the fuck up.
Like, but people do, they'd be like, yo, let Mimi talk. I'm like, look, Mimi talk.
Yeah.
Mimi gonna talk when she want to talk. I'm not tripping.
Again, my dad was saying Roman Reigns, he's not for me. And what did she say? He ain't for you.
The women in my life,
he's for the bitches. Like,
if it's a woman in my life, they're gonna talk. I can't let them not talk. But I'm gonna say this. Vince McMahon in the middle. Which one of these two you think is going to be running at that time? I don't even know the time state.
That'd be 2011, I think.
You think Shane?
Triple H is in a suit with the long hair.
Look at him.
Yeah,
he's ready.
That had to be 2010, 2011.
Like Triple H is so Shane looks like he's there because his pops is there for the fucking
100%. He's like, I don't even work here. I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Why would I be? Look, I'm here. There's a sneaker shop. I know these fucking ones are gonna. These fives are gonna be there. Yeah, like I feel like.
Oh my god!
If you want to go with the Succession comparison, like
that's probably. There's also a great photo of him and John Cena at a Lakers game. I don't think it's in that same time frame, but that's the only reason he goes to LA.
Is he Connor Roy?
He's Connor. I think he's all three of the sons because he is kind of in terms like maybe this guy should have been the one because he was willing to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that. I also think there's that aspect where again Connor's ideas are too grand, and again Shane McMahon's idea for ECW being online only and being when ECW became WWE ECW in 06, he basically saying he was creating NXT before it became NXT. But there's also probably that Roman element where again, that's the thing with all three of the Sons on Succession. They're all smart, but they all have their flaws. I think he's just much more Kendall in terms of being passed over when he should have been the rightful one right away, because that's what Succession kicks off with. It's this guy's day to take over, and the dad changes his mind, and that's what sends him and the whole family into the tailspin. It does.
That's literally the show.
Yeah, but
well, you figure episode 1, season 1 is Kendall thinking he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, because it's so you made the announcement. He's like, it'll happen. He's like, yeah, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to stick around. And I think that probably happened 20 times in the last 15 years of Vince and Shane. And then it happened numerous times in the last 4 or 5 years with Triple H and Vince.
Look at Shane. That's literally Shane.
But
Shane.
That's Shane. Yeah.
It's the same guy. It's not his father that he's facing, but it's the same guy.
Yeah. Brock Lesnar probably has a fuck off element to him whenever you approach him for anything.
But again, Brock's the guy
how much and fuck off.
He's the barrier between Shane and his father. Anyway,
real quick,
go ahead.
There was just some party news and bits, like I said, but again, Shane McMahon, he is a good wrestler, Matt. No matter what you say, not just an entertaining wrestler, he's a good wrestler. There are matches to prove it, and sure, there are against great opponents, but you know it takes two to tango.
You watching Shane McMahon matches?
Yeah, I watched them earlier today.
Because of the show?
I wanted to watch the 3 matches I have. I'm like, I think these were a little bit better than I thought they were, but they were good at the time. And just since again, he's just as good a worker as Cody Rhodes and people and Logan Paul. Again, not to put any. Logan Paul, again, he had a great performance, but he's doing stuff that again is gonna get you to cheer and go, oh my god. And again, but what's the real me? People get bored of What do you want to do? Like a Zack Sabre Jr. match? Well, it's like, well, that's what real wrestling is supposed to be, right? Thinking he's in WWE, so he's going to put on a WWE match, as he should, because he can, and it's good. But regardless,
no, that makes sense.
Because that was kind of the point of this argument. Like he's able to do this, but there was some news and stuff that's dropped. That John Wick Chapter 4 trailer, Cal.
I've still not seen it yet.
No, you've gone.
Let me drip. I get that. I've been subscribed to the text for John Wick since John Wick 2. It's sitting in my watch later. I just haven't watched it. It's hard.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. And the story is so he can. It's basically like when he's on the run again.
Of course,
but he can once again get the chance to clear his name against Bill Skarsgård in a way.
Shit, I gotta watch this after the fact.
Yeah, did you watch Barbarian yet too or no? I know you've been busy. Okay,
I've not seen Barbarian yet. Okay.
I got you. Like the Act 1 of Barbarian is the most intense thing I've seen, more intense than Uncut Gems.
I gotta watch before the end of the year. Either way. Okay.
Yeah, I was just saying because you might be covering it at the employer or just personal reasons.
Yeah. No, I got to tune in. It's been Atlanta and Black Panther.
Although again, I'm not even
Wakanda Forever.
Because so much in that.
They dropped the same week, so it's been a lot going on in my life right now.
The other thing was I forgot this on last week's episode, but the Gentleman TV show. Remember the film The Gentleman that you and I liked from 2020?
Guy Ritchie, right?
Yeah. There are now casting announcements. Theo James will lead the show. He was in the Divergent franchise. He's a good actor. He's currently on The White Lotus season 2.
Oh yeah, let's go. No, let's go.
But I'm not watching that. But
people love that show.
He'll be joined by Giancarlo Esposito. I always say Jawan Hunsu keeps getting them checks, but so does Giancarlo Esposito, especially in the last 15 years. He's been getting them checks.
He'll do shows, and then when we interviewed him a couple years back, he was like, "Yo, I got like 2 podcasts." Like he stays paid.
He was doing that show with Carla Gugino that you and Fraser were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. He was doing The Boys, The Mandalorian, and still kind of doing Dear White People. Like
he was a narrator throughout. He was a narrator when that series began because he's that dope.
I loved that show. I loved when he revealed himself not just to be the narrator, but like Mr. X. Like he was an actual person when he was
a figure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Great actor.
Kaya Scudero, who's on, I think, a UK version of Skins, and she was in that movie Crawl, but I never saw that. Peter Serafinowicz, who was in John Wick Chapter 2, he was the sommelier, the guy who gives him the guns with his nip, and he was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Vinnie Jones, a former Guy Ritchie staple, who was Juggernaut in X-Men: The Last Stand, will be on this show. So I'm looking forward to you and I.
Yeah,
when we covered movies, film, cinema, that part 3, I said that The Gentleman was one of my favorite films of the last couple of years.
The Gentleman was a really good film.
But another movie that was one of my favorite films of that journey was Black Panther. Told you I saw it multiple times. Run that back. What'd you think of Wakanda Forever? Let's do just 5 quick minutes because I talked about this earlier on Banks vs. Davis with shout to Van, 1/2 of Black Variant, and Eve. Shout out to Eve, 1/3 of Black Announce Table. Family.
Peace to RNC, peace to BBD Pod. I loved Wakanda Forever. I wish I had a 3rd Black Panther hoodie or shirt because I wore a Black Panther hoodie for Where's Buffy, and I had a crew neck because I took my son to see it on Saturday. But I love what they did for Chadwick. I love the way they built Shuri with like trauma, because that's an MCU thing. It's like your heroes have to have familial trauma. This film built all of that for her, regardless of however far you want to see her go. That was all.
In No Way Home, it was losing Aunt May, and then the other 2 Peters show up.
But
Doctor Strange, why is he so keen on protecting America? And then it's real like, why are we the way we are? Because our sister died and there was nothing we can do to save her. So
when I tell you, Drip, the bridge when Okoye and Atuma had that fight.
Yeah, I was like, that's the most visceral fight scene I can remember, and it was brilliant. Like,
there's no score.
Yeah, it's ting ting, ting like. And
I'd
said this earlier when he plants her spear in the ground, and he
rams her into it. Yeah,
like it's a wrestling match, and she has to. I said on the pod, she has to pop it back in like Finn Balor at SummerSlam 2016.
Her shit was all fucked up. Yeah.
But after these fuckers, they throw water grenades, Cal.
Water bombs. Yeah, the whole show.
Weapon is more like dangerous than
water grenades are hard.
Aluminum tube.
It's literally just a bomb with water that explodes. Like regardless of what happens, when it hits you, you're moving. Yeah, nah, that shit was hard. It was again. I think I saw Ruthie Carter, a legendary costume designer. Yes. She worked with Spike Lee and all them. She said she had to put weights in the costumes to kind of because so much of a Black Avatar is underwater. You got to prepare for those, like their jump. Fucking Namor is springing out of the water with wings on his legs. Like, what a Coogler. I just saw. I didn't watch the Creed 3 trailer until I was in the theaters for the previews, and that looks phenomenal. Creed 3 looks phenomenal, but
shout out to Michael B. Jordan as well.
Creed 3 is not phenomenal without the early eye of a Ryan Coogler. When you watch Wakanda Forever, Black Panther jumping over, she's fighting people on the side of the fucking ship, like knocking people over and shooting with concussive blood. That shit was hard, bro.
I'd say to know Herta as Namor is just brilliant. Again, like I had said this on the episode earlier, just his presence of being soft, but he's about that action when it's time for it is the thing. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. He's like, I'm just about protecting my people. That's all
he said. I care about. Like, look, you see what I got to protect, right? Just bow now. And she said, nah. It's all right, bet we about to fuck y'all up.
Even like I said on the show, I'm like, there was one hint, at least to me, and I wouldn't have been mad if they did. Were like, there could have been a romance between the two. Like, I think they were building her, and she's like, listen, I'll stay here and be with you if you just let this girl go. Like, please, like, don't do anything.
She was thinking of her people.
Yeah. And I think that's what could have made sense if they were to be a romance going forward. They're just drawn to protecting everyone else. But when what happens, and she becomes about that action again. She even gets the hair of the match, and M'Baku's like, the fuck happened to you? Like this ain't. I know this ain't you talking. You sound like someone else. Like
they should have known. Like when you remember, like I didn't think about it, but when you remember who the last Black Panther was, you have to factor that into. Well, not even. Without going too many spoilers into it, like that guy is in the succession of Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying? Like, she could have got her pops. She could have got somebody from years ago.
The conversation we had on BBD was spoiler filled, so I came up with a reason there is because the little amount of time they had in the first one, you can see in a way she was scared of him, but like drawn as well because of the anger and vengeance he had.
Right.
But he was just so self-righteous. That's what scared her away, and that's like why she was so fearful. It was that thing to her, like, this person is powerful, but I am scared of how powerful they can be, and that's why he was so good in that scene. And that's what she was trying to bring with like the plan they made. And Dominic Thorne, like I said, was brilliant as Ruby Williams. The whole cast was. I just loved how he was like M'Baku, Winston Duke is just phenomenal, paddling the boat, and then he sets his sights like fish man, and
the nigga said
tries to get that jump on him, and like
anytime he talked about the fish man and
he's like Cuckoo Khan,
the Cuckoo Khan. They call him the Cuckoo Khan.
He's not a man to them. He's a god to his.
In the press screening, I think the fish man popped.
That's a great line because
when I was in the civilian
fish man, like
because he's just on the boat. Oh, the fish man, and he springs in the. Shouts out to Winston Duke, man.
Yeah, he legit was like, I'm gonna fuck this dude up. He ain't like again. I'm M'Baku, the leader of the Jabari tribe, and he just goes. And
he took it to him, and he got fucked up. He punched. His whole Road Warrior chest was broke. He said, "Nah,
that's one of like probably 3 or 4 times Cougar uses the slow motion in the film. The first, like when they rise up on that ocean liner, and then the dude just goes super fast with the spear and sticks that dude against the fucking ocean tanker or whatever it is.
That old white man,
The other time is again that water grenade flipping up the car and motorcycle and the brilliant use there. And again, props to him for being a fan of a car chase because the car chase in the first one, at least Black Panther on foot and then on.
Remember
Alex,
the first Black Panther
she sticks that spear and then the car behind her flips
hard,
like
so hard,
like it's the flip car from Fast and Furious 6. Like
the first Black Panther. Coogler, the one quote that sticks out is Coogler was saying he was trying to make like an MCU's James Bond.
Yeah, you can with the casino scene. That whole set piece in Soul is very reminiscent. And like you said, we had said when the trailer came out, like he wanted to make Waterworld underwater, this epic. And there are times where Namor and his people are terrifying. And I said that they didn't lean too much into the Jaws element of like the creatures under the sea are the most terrifying, but like
it could have been worse,
But the siren song leaving the people like hypnotizing them and jumping in, and that great scene with like Bells in the helicopter, and like we don't see it from the outside, we just hear the chaos on the inside, and it launches into the ocean, and we pan up and see a silhouette, dark as fuck as it's already starting to fade to the next scene. He did well, even when he rises from the ocean and has the brain like the water is beautiful in this land. Like
when I tell you this, Ryan Coogler is one of your. If I died tomorrow, I'd probably say Ryan Coogler's like one of your modern greatest directors right now. And the fact that
there are times where it's just so like
he wrote this.
No, I'm saying like indie film where like the way the camera kind of is static and chaotic at times, but then how panic and anxiety driven that flooding of Wakanda scene is when like the levees finally do burst. And I'm like, no, they're here. It's like, it's the worst thing you can see. It's terrifying. Like I said, it's visceral. That fight scene on the bridge is when Wakanda starts to flood. I'm like, oh my God. Like so my thing was, I think it's the second or third best Phase 4 film.
Mm-hmm.
To me, No Way Home is the best. This is either flopping second and third with, Multiverse.
I think the Doctor Strange movie probably made a little more money than Black Panther. I think Wakanda Forever is a better fit, like a better story than Multiverse of Madness, but
Multiverse. I think the opposite. That's because the Multiverse of Madness is so simple. I love that.
It's just him
trying to protect a girl through multiple elements and multiverses, whereas like
and he knows who the bad guy is, right?
Yeah, and I think and the villain in that is just phenomenal. Is like, again, even though she's not the villain in her mind, she's just trying to get them fake kids. Namor is not the villain in his mind. He really isn't either. He's just about
he's a Thanos.
Well, not even more than that. He really just is a guy who, like, listen, like, I'm trying to kill one life to save.
All he said was, "You see what I got to protect."
Yeah, but that element of honor too, because even though he does like, listen, this is on y'all to fix this. It was a little bit fucked up. Like he shows up and says, "Listen, this is y'all problem now, or else I'm your problem." Like
you did this. If y'all don't want to handle it, I got it, and you don't want me to have it. So it was dope.
The only thing it was between the story and paying homage, that's where it kind of got lost to me in terms of like if it's hard to compete with that first one though. The first one was so perfect. But it was just that thing of trying to balance paying homage to Chadwick Boseman and introducing Riri Williams and dealing with.
There's a lot going on in the film,
and it doesn't falter. It just there was so much going on. Compared to how again the first one's so simple with a man who is king, but maybe he isn't ready for it yet.
Right.
And on the flip side is a man who's been wronged his entire life finally seeking what is his.
It's been, well, you know what, Drip? It's been 4 years since the first Black Panther came out, and there's been a lot that's happened. Black Panther was gone for a bit. Like, I think at the end of the day, if you watch this film, you can say what you want about how they paid tribute to Chadwick. The idea
of both times, the opening and the closing. Yeah,
when I went to the press screening, like, it didn't hit me, but when the Marvel logo comes in and it's all Chadwick, oh my god!
Yeah, I didn't cry, and Shane's like, "You'll cry." I'm like, I figured I will, but I didn't. But there were times I could feel like my face do that.
It was I think when they showed because there's 2 casket scenes.
Yeah.
And when they showed the casket with the fucking Wakanda Forever, I was like, shit. My son went like, I didn't talk to him about it. My son did a little, physical finger to the eye type shit. And he be getting, because my wife gets emotional, so I wouldn't be surprised. But
I get emotional. I'm saying it didn't hit me as much, but Top Gun Maverick did hit me a little bit, especially when the woman I was with at the time saw it with me. When there are 2 times I film where I'm like,
Wakanda. It's the beginning of the film. It's literally like, yo, he's dying.
Yeah, that didn't hit me as much as like the stuff at the end where it's like. Especially the scene, the way they picked like this adorable kid to come out and say what he said.
Little Prince, man, little Toussaint. Like it was all right. Matter of fact, I saw this movie last Monday, and I've not been able to talk about it with people until like today. So Toussaint, 5-6 years old, when T'Challa had sex with Nakia, he had the power of the Black Panther.
So does it work like that? Because shouldn't he have already had it in him if his father was Black Panther before?
They had to drink it. You drank they took the herb and they boiled it down. It was a liquid. She drank it. He drank it in the first. You don't think the power of the Black Panther is in his semen? Like no. You don't think it's in his semen? And because I'm gonna say this. Not on some wild shit. There's not a trace element in his DNA of the vibranium.
No, because wouldn't Shuri have it because they have the same mother and father? Wouldn't Shuri have it as well? So that ruins your argument. If they're
damn, no, that's good. I didn't think about that because the chakra was the Black Panther.
I don't think it stays in your system. Like
it can't. It can't. It doesn't because Shuri clearly, after she drank the shit, she had superhuman strength.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
but
that.
Also that would make
thank you.
So like, how can he pass away if he?
I got to text my homie.
Oh, he was wondering as well.
No, that was when we left the theater. I was like, yo, is this a situation where the little prince is going to get turned into fucking Black Panther like they want to do?
Drink that artificial herb she created.
Well, but again, if it's in his, like, if this guy was the Black Panther and it was in his body,
but like I said,
we don't know how it transfers through semen.
It doesn't, because she doesn't have it, as I just said. It doesn't work like that. And I don't know why it wouldn't, because don't forget
it should. You would think it would.
You would think it should, but maybe there's a thing once it's stripped away from you and you have to take it in. Because don't forget, Forrest Whitaker says, like, in order to fight to prove you are king, it has to be stripped away to show you can prove it on your own. And then he drank it right after that. Yeah. So maybe it's a thing where it's like a steroid cycle. Maybe it fucks with the system and all that, or like you can't recalibrate or whatever.
They're juicing off the roids and because
in a way, isn't that what it's supposed to be? Because and that's why I don't really know how they wrote it off good, but like if the power of the Black Panther is supposed to make you, again, you can't really die or can't be harmed, I should say. Then how is he able to pass away while he?
Well, let's say
maybe that could be a thing where there are complications from or anything else. In
the first film was the idea of finding mind,
and given how he was already maybe there could have been a time to him already being somewhat dead and being revived by the snow in that last.
Yeah, I think we don't know.
Borrowed time in a way, like it's not as potent given how you already have dead.
The one variable it sounds like is how long is the power of the Black Panther potent?
Yeah.
Because again, if he was able to die, we didn't even get any information on how that happened.
It's just something about his heart and in the like his illness.
She was just trying to create another herb, so it's damn. We're never gonna know. Anyway, Trip, it's been fun.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else here. But watch that John Wick Chapter 4 trailer. You will be like,
next week we'll talk. Next show,
we'll probably pod about it before we head to Mania in LA because it's March 24th.
Fuck,
that'll be the last thing we do.
I cannot wait. Anyway,
all right, but shout out to you, Khal, as always. This is White Noise on the BRP Patreon with Black Watch every single Monday. Fools in the China Shop with Mighty Ven and Mike Sempervivi. Black Wrestling Podcast Go with which you host, and I think Math is somewhat your co-host.
Math low-key, he was a co-host.
I think Sparks is also the somewhat co-host as well.
Whenever Math's around, Sparks is right around the corner. You know that.
And as always, you can find us on YouTube every Thursday, Black Wrestling Proper. Mimi Shells runs Turnbuckle Talk every Tuesday on Twitter Spaces. Fam and Lovely Laveau have something else. I'll be back on Wednesdays, but season 1 is in the books.
Season 2 coming soon. They working. Trust me.
Run back the archives. I'm starting to get back into making the best of videos. Those are a trip. And this will be special guest stars. All the guests that have come by over the last 2 years. There'll be a few videos featuring them, and also a best of 2022 video in the works.
Nice.
You can follow me on Twitter at Davis, aka Drip, Instagram Davis Home DC. Banks versus Davis every Sunday on YouTube. Banks versus Davis Patreon. I am, and like I said, I will still be your BRP predictions champion for the remainder of this year. Shout out to the Droplets. How do you got to say before we head out?
I'm at Khal on Twitter. At Black Wrestling on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. BlackWrestling.com is a website. Taking that title from, I feel like I have to take the title from him at War Game. Shouts out to Rip for the War Game edit. I legit forgot that we had that in the thing. I
was like, when am I going to drop this?
It's been so long.
War Games is on the horizon, but when Matt posted the new logo, I'm like, all right, finally. It was legit like my finger on the trigger, like, come on. Like, and I made that Usos New Day one yesterday with the Where is Beef? That's on there because again, that they've been feuding forever.
When you said
that would be an episode,
Drip said, "Yo, find me a song where they talking about beef." I say, "Here you go," and it's got the strings anyway. Every Thursday, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. YouTube.com/Black Wrestling. We are there. Shouts to Mimi, shouts to Fam, shouts to Mav, shouts to Drip, shouts to myself. We're always giving you 360 degrees of Black Wrestling excellence. BRP 50, shouts out to us, Swerve Stricken, everybody else is hating. I see y'all. Shit.
Real quick, do you now think your employer might have a Shane McMahon piece in the works in the next week or two, given the context of the last
I'll tell you
the few pieces you've edited in the show coinciding?
Because I have a good grip on what goes on the website.
Wait until like Shane McMahon returns at War Games. That's the thing we skipped over. This man returned this year at Royal Rumble, and then they fired him the next day.
I don't think he's coming back. If anybody has any pitches for Shane McMahon pieces, Khal at Spotify.com. Hit me in the DM, whatever, at Khal on Twitter. But I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
Unless someone's bold enough to steal my my Survivor Series Shane McMahon Kane ambulance match, like the best non-traditional Survivor Series matches. That's like the blatant, what are the best Survivor Series matches that aren't the traditional Survivor Series matches? Yeah.
Good luck. I don't think it's happening. Drip.
I'm just saying it is eerie at times the way they've linked up this show and the pieces you edit. I'm just saying. We've
been trying to work, but nobody's hit me caring about Shane McMahon. So it's safe to say that. Yeah. Well, I'll tell. There's a couple things in the chamber. I'm open to whatever, but I can kind of tell what's popping based off
Yeah.
of what my writers hit me with. And Shane McMahon is so far outside.
Watch, had we had done the PWG episode like originally planned, it would have then come up because I'm like, you know what?
At some point, we got that.
Let me put this back in the chamber. Like,
we could do that at some point. It is what it is. Anyway.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here.
This was fun. Oh shit, yeah. I guess we got to.
Yeah,
we do got to get.
We got time though, but yeah, you got to get out of your family dinner.
Look, I got to piss, yo.
So do I. So
thank you. Thanks for the viewers. We'll check y'all out.
Yes, all the patrons, all the subscribers on YouTube. We'll see y'all. Peace.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick.